When we choose a suitable font for a project from a Font Foundry website, the font might look good in the preview and so we download it. Even when we use the font in Illustrator, it may still look fine. That's until we create outlines from the font to make the font actual shapes. Like graphics we create for a logo, it's vitally important that the text is also perfect. When we create outlines from the font, we can see the imperfections by the curve paths and the position of anchor points. We need to remember that a logo may be used at a significant size, such as on billboards for example, where all details, errors specifically, will become apparent. So let's take a look at this particular font. Now it looks fine here in Illustrator and it also looks fine on the Font Foundry preview. However, if we select the font and we go to type and create outlines to make shapes out of these characters and we zoom in, you might assume that this font is still perfect. However, if we scroll across and we begin to highlight characters, such as the G for example, you'll see a load of unnecessary anchor points here which are grouped. Now the aim is ideally to have a logo with as few anchor points as possible. This creates a more simplistic result. If we zoom in, you can also see that there's an anchor point up here which is offset. So for a professional result, it's best that we go ahead and correct this error, because as mentioned, if this text was utilized in a logo and the logo was blown up to a huge size, this error would be apparent. So to go ahead and fix this, we can use the pen tool to draw out a new curve, or we can simply start to delete or reposition the anchor points which are currently here. So let's zoom in further and see what we can do here. So using the pen tool, we can extend this outwards until we have the delete anchor point tool. And we can go ahead and click this anchor point out here, which isn't necessary. And we can go ahead and use the direct selection tool to reposition this anchor point up here until we hit the vertical. Holding shift will allow us to lock onto the vertical here. And this here is the result. Now you'll see we also have a load of errors still down here. A load of anchor points which are unnecessary. So the quickest fix for this would be to simply select the pen tool and click up here on the vertical line, and we click down here upon the path and we pull out a curve like so, and we let go of the mouse button and we can just pull out up here to draw another anchor point, and there we have that problem rectified. So now the G is perfect. So the last thing we need to do is to take that chunk, highlight the G. If you go to Object, Ungroup, so that all characters are separate first, we highlight that shape we drew, holding Shift, selecting the G, go to Pathfinder panel, and we select Make Compound Shape and Expand. Now that G is now a solid shape and it's now in a perfect form. Now in another case, as a hypothetical example, we may find a character which is significantly distorted. Now although I've just created this O for the sake of an example, you will find that some font developers can be extremely sloppy. So we always have to take care and review each character carefully. Now if we zoom in, you'll see that we can highlight this O and we can see obviously that all the anchor points are in crazy positions, thus giving this outer shape as you see here. Now in situations like this, it's best just to go ahead and delete this rather than mess around with the anchor points and redraw the character from scratch. Fortunately with the character O, this is a simple circle with a circle cut out from the center to create negative space. So to do this, I go ahead and select the ellipse tool. I'd hold the cursor until the pink horizontal line appears, which denotes the top of the O. Holding Shift to keep proportions, to drag out an O, drag out a circle rather, and I'm going to colour this green. I'm going to turn down the opacity just so I can see the shape beneath, and I'm going to go ahead and draw the second circle, which is the negative space, holding shift again to keep proportion. And I'm going to use a selection tool. With this circle selected, I'm going to hold shift and select the circle behind it. I'm going to go to the Pathfinder panel and I'm going to select minus front, and this takes away the front shape from the rear shape, giving me the negative circle. Now with that done, I'll go ahead and colour this black. From the layers panel, I can just lock that down and delete the shape behind, and go into properties. After we unlock on the layers, I can increase this back to 100%. And there we have it. This is the perfect O which has been created out of two circles to replace the one that was previously glitched in the font set. So having checked each character carefully and made any necessary adjustments, assuming all's well, the next step for this text to make it professional looking is the kerning process, which I'll go on to discuss further in the course. So that covers how to remedy a character shape and how to replace one such character shape. The option you choose obviously depends upon the severity of the font glitch. If the glitch is too significant for you to feel confident of fixing, it would be a good idea to choose another font. Nonetheless, it's always a good idea to persevere and try your hand at it for the purpose of training and acquiring the skill. So to summarise, we should never assume that any font developer has made all characters perfect. We should always carefully review each character, noting the curve paths and anchor points for any errors whilst zoomed in. Upon finding any errors, we either adjust the shape or we replace the shape in its entirety. We then review every shape before we do the kerning process. So this covers treatment of an erroneous font, which in turn gives you more thorough and professional results, which will make your logo suitable for a variety of applications, large print and display in particular.